Science has told us for decades that Megalodon is gone, extinct for 2.6 million years, a prehistoric relic that exists only in fossils and museum displays. But in the past 10 years, deep-sea researchers, marine biologists, and commercial fishermen have documented something that the official narrative cannot account for. Something massive, something predatory, something that matches Megalodon in size, behavior, and characteristics in the deepest and least explored places on Earth. If you are new here, subscribe now, because this is exactly the kind of story we cover. This is not a myth. This is the evidence they have not been able to explain away. Marine science insists Megalodon went extinct 2.6 million years ago, yet deep-sea researchers keep detecting massive shark-like objects at impossible depths where nothing that large should survive. The evidence suggests these prehistoric apex predators didn't die out. They adapted to deep ocean trenches and grew even larger. This is why Megalodon never went extinct. Mainstream paleontology teaches with absolute certainty that Carcharical's Megalodon, the largest predatory shark ever documented, vanished from Earth's oceans approximately 2.6 million years ago at the boundary between the Pliocene and Pleistocene epochs. This extinction timeline rests primarily on fossil evidence, specifically the complete absence of Megalodon teeth from geological strata dated after 2.6 million years before present. Megalodon teeth, which are the primary fossil evidence we possess for this species, measure between 4 and 7 inches from root to tip, dwarfing the teeth of modern great white sharks that rarely exceed 2.5 inches. These massive triangular serrated teeth allowed paleontologists to reconstruct Megalodon's probable size through comparative analysis with living shark species. Conservative estimates place adult Megalodon length between 50 and 60 feet, roughly triple the size of large great white sharks, though some researchers argue the largest specimens may have approached 70 feet or more based on the dimensions of the largest teeth ever recovered. The estimated bite force of this apex predator ranged between 24,000 and 40,000 pounds per square inch, approximately 10 times more powerful than a great white shark and exceeding even Tyrannosaurus rex, allowing Megalodon to attack and kill the largest whales swimming in prehistoric oceans. Fossil distribution indicates Megalodon maintained a cosmopolitan range, inhabiting oceans worldwide from tropical to temperate waters, with fossilized teeth recovered from every continent except Antarctica. Then, according to the established scientific narrative, this dominant apex predator that had ruled marine ecosystems for nearly 20 million years simply disappeared. The proposed extinction mechanism involves multiple interconnected factors, including significant ocean cooling during the Pliocene epoch that reduced suitable habitat, changes in ocean circulation patterns that disrupted prey distribution, evolutionary changes in whale populations including development of migration patterns that moved prey species into colder polar waters where Megalodon struggled to follow, and increasing competition from emerging predators including early orcas and other large shark species. This extinction scenario is presented not as theory, but as established fact, taught in universities, displayed in museums, and accepted as settled science requiring no further investigation. The first substantive challenges to Megalodon's confirmed extinction emerged not from amateur cryptozoologists or internet conspiracy theorists, but from credible marine biologists and oceanographers conducting legitimate deep-sea research who began documenting sonar detections that contradicted everything known about large marine animal distribution and behavior. In 2003, a research expedition mapping seafloor topology near the Mariana Trench deployed advanced multi-beam sonar systems capable of detecting objects and marine organisms at extreme depths where traditional survey equipment cannot function. During routine survey operations, the sonar array registered a large mobile object at a depth of 20,000 feet, far deeper than any known large marine animal ventures for extended periods. The contact measured approximately 70 feet in length based on sonar return analysis, moving horizontally through the water column at sustained speed, inconsistent with drifting debris or geological features. The depth itself represented the anomaly's most troubling characteristic. At 20,000 feet, water pressure exceeds 8,000 pounds per square inch, enough to instantly crush most submarine hulls and far beyond the physiological limits of known large marine species. Sperm whales, the deepest diving marine mammals, occasionally reach depths approaching 10,000 feet during hunting dives, but remain at such depths for mere minutes before physiological stress forces them to ascend. No whale species species maintains sustained horizontal swimming at 20,000 feet because the extreme pressure and oxygen requirements make such behavior impossible. Giant squid inhabit deep water environments, but their body structure, tentacle-based locomotion, and movement patterns produce sonar signatures completely different from what the research team detected. The object moved like a shark, powerful tail-driven propulsion creating distinctive hydrodynamic signatures that sonar operators recognized immediately. However, no scientifically documented shark species reaches 70 feet in length, and no shark is known to hunt at 20,000-foot depths, where pressure and darkness create environmental conditions fundamentally incompatible with shark physiology as currently understood. The research team documented the anomaly in internal expedition reports, but never published findings in peer-reviewed literature. When the lead researcher suggested conducting follow-up surveys with additional sensor arrays to identify the mysterious contact, institutional administrators responded that limited research funding needed allocation toward higher priority objectives. The incident was effectively buried in classified expedition data where it remained inaccessible to broader scientific scrutiny. While academic researchers documented unexplained sonar contacts through expensive deep ocean surveys, commercial fishing operations began experiencing direct physical encounters with something that defied scientific explanation and terrified crews who had spent decades working dangerous waters. In 2009, a longline fishing vessel operating in international waters off South Africa's coast deployed deep-set fishing gear targeting species including orange roughy and Patagonian toothfish at depths approaching 5,000 feet. When crew members retrieved the long line array after 12 hours of fishing, they discovered extensive damage that couldn't be attributed to known marine animals or equipment failure. Multiple heavy-duty hooks had been torn completely away from the main line, requiring forces that exceeded the breaking strength of steel cable rated for thousands of pounds of tension. Remaining sections of line showed stress damage and deformation, consistent with massive sustained pulling force applied by something far more powerful than the target fish species. Most disturbingly, one hook that remained attached to the retrieved gear had a large tooth fragment embedded in the steel, clearly originating from a shark, but vastly exceeding the dimensions of any documented species. The fragment measured approximately 3 inches of what appeared to be a much larger complete tooth that had broken off when the shark pulled against the hook. Based on comparative analysis with known shark dental morphology, marine biology consultants estimated the complete tooth would have measured at least 6 inches from root to tip, potentially larger depending on the fragment's position within the original tooth structure. 6-inch teeth fall squarely within Megalodon's size range based on fossil specimen, far exceeding the largest teeth produced by great white sharks or any other living species. The fishing company made the strategic decision not to file official reports about the incident, fearing ridicule from industry competitors and potential negative publicity that might affect business relationships and customer confidence. However, crew members discussed the encounter with colleagues at other fishing operations, and their accounts spread rapidly through the tight-knit commercial fishing community, where stories of unusual catches and strange ocean encounters circulate freely. Similar incidents began accumulating across multiple fishing operations worldwide. Deep-set long lines returned to surface with entire sections missing, heavy steel cables snapped by forces that shouldn't exist, and occasionally massive bite marks appeared on large fish brought up from deep water, showing tooth spacing and jaw dimensions far too large for great white sharks or any other known predator. Perhaps the most scientifically compelling evidence for surviving megalodon populations comes from an unexpected source: living whales and whale carcasses bearing injury patterns that cannot be explained through attacks by any documented predator species. In 2014, marine biologists conducting long-term population studies of Pacific sperm whales documented multiple individuals bearing massive semicircular scarring patterns that defied conventional explanation. Sperm whales represent among the ocean's largest animals, with adult males reaching 60 feet in length and weighing up to 50 tons. Dimensions that provide natural protection against most predators. Orcas occasionally attack sperm whales through coordinated pack hunting, but orca bite marks are distinctive and proportionally small relative to whale body size, typically measuring 12 to 18 inches across. Great white sharks rarely attempt attacks on animals as massive as adult sperm whales, and their bite radius seldom exceeds 24 inches, even in the largest documented specimens. The wounds observed on these Pacific sperm whales told a different story entirely. Massive semicircular scars indicated bites from a predator with jaw span measuring 6 to 8 feet across. dimensions far exceeding any living shark species but matching almost perfectly with scientific reconstructions of Megalodon jaw structure based on fossil evidence. The tooth spacing visible in scar tissue suggested shark rather than cetacean-dentition patterns, eliminating orcas as potential attackers. The bite depth indicated crushing force consistent with attacking and attempting to kill prey, rather than investigatory biting behavior sometimes displayed by great white sharks. Marine biologists examining the wounds faced a troubling dilemma. The physical evidence pointed unmistakably toward megalodon-sized jaws, yet acknowledging this conclusion would require suggesting an extinct species somehow survived, a claim that could instantly destroy professional credibility and end academic careers. Published research papers describing these whales mentioned wounds from unknown large predator, without specific speculation about identity, carefully avoiding the word megalodon despite the obvious implications. However, the evidence continued accumulating across multiple whale populations and geographic regions. In 2016, a deceased whale washed ashore in Indonesia bearing massive bite wounds that marine biologists examining the carcass struggled to explain through conventional predator species. The bite dimensions exceeded known shark capabilities. The force required to inflict such trauma surpassed documented predator attacks, and tooth spacing remained inconsistent with any living species cataloged in scientific literature. Understanding how Megalodon could survive undetected for 2.6 million years requires comprehending the sheer vastness and profound lack of human exploration characterizing Earth's deep ocean trench systems. The Mariana Trench, representing the deepest point in global oceans, plunges nearly 36,000 feet at Challenger Deep, a depth so extreme that placing Mount Everest at the trench bottom would leave the summit more than a mile underwater. The trench itself extends over 1,500 miles in length, while averaging approximately 43 miles in width, creating a volumetric space containing hundreds of cubic miles of water at depths where human exploration remains virtually non-existent. More significantly, the Mariana Trench represents merely one system among dozens of major deep ocean trenches scattered across global oceans. The Tonga Trench, Philippine Trench, Chile Trench, Puerto Rico Trench, Kermadec Trench, and numerous others create vast, interconnected deep ocean ecosystems that collectively represent the largest continuous habitat on Earth, yet simultaneously the least explored environment accessible to human investigation. Only 3 people had descended to Challenger Deep before 2019, Jacques Piccard and Don Walsh in 1960 aboard the bathyscaphe Trieste, and filmmaker James Cameron in 2012 aboard Deep Sea Challenger. These represented brief visits lasting mere hours with severely limited ability to survey surrounding areas or document marine life beyond the immediate submersible vicinity. Compare this exploration record with terrestrial environments where humans have mapped every mountain range, explored every continent, photographed Earth's land surface from satellites with extraordinary resolution, and cataloged the vast majority of large animal species. Yet for deep ocean trenches, we possess better topographic maps of Mars than of our own ocean floor below 20,000 feet. Sonar surveys provide general seafloor topology, but cannot identify specific biological species, document animal behaviors, or distinguish between geological features and living organisms with any reliability. Submersible visits remain extraordinarily rare, prohibitively expensive, and cover infinitesimally small fractions of total trench area. Imagine attempting to document all wildlife in North America by making 3 brief helicopter visits to random locations. If a large predatory species adapted to inhabiting primarily deep trench environments while ascending to shallower waters only occasionally for hunting purposes, it could remain effectively invisible to human observation for millions of years, particularly if total population numbers remained relatively small and individuals distributed across multiple trench systems spanning thousands of miles of ocean floor. The crucial question confronting megalodon survival theories involves whether a species that dominated warm, shallow waters could adapt to survive in the crushing pressure, total darkness, and near-freezing temperatures characterizing deep ocean trench environments. Marine biology research into deep-sea ecosystems suggests not only that such adaptation is theoretically possible, but that the resulting organisms would likely undergo significant evolutionary changes from their prehistoric ancestors, potentially including substantial size increases. Deep-sea fish demonstrate remarkable physiological adaptations, allowing normal function under environmental conditions that would instantly kill surface-dwelling species. Pressure resistance proves less problematic than intuitive understanding suggests because fish lack gas-filled spaces like lungs that compress catastrophically under extreme pressure. Instead, deep-sea species evolved specialized body structures and biochemical modifications including pressure-resistant proteins, modified cell membranes, and unique metabolic pathways that maintain function at depths where pressure exceeds 8,000 pounds per square inch. Food availability represents a more significant challenge because deep ocean environments are relatively nutrient-poor compared with surface waters, where sunlight drives photosynthetic production, forming the base of marine food chains. Large predators require substantial food sources to maintain metabolism and body mass, raising questions about how creatures as massive as Megalodon could obtain sufficient nutrition in the relatively barren deep ocean. The answer might involve behavioral adaptation, combining deep-dwelling habits with periodic ascents to shallower, more productive waters for hunting. If Megalodon populations adapted to spending the majority of time in deep trenches while periodically rising to continental shelf depths for feeding, they could access both deep-sea organisms and more abundant surface prey species. This migration pattern would explain sonar detections at extreme depths, occasional whale attacks in shallower water, and the relative rarity of surface encounters that keeps populations hidden from human observation. Additionally, these deep-dwelling Megalodon might have significantly modified their dietary preferences from the whale-dominated diet of their prehistoric ancestors, potentially hunting giant squid that inhabit similar depth ranges, consuming large deep-sea fish species, and scavenging whale carcasses that sink to ocean floor after death, a reliable food source in deep trenches where large whale falls create feeding opportunities lasting years. Perhaps most intriguing, evolutionary adaptation to deep trenches could have driven development toward even larger body size through the well-documented phenomenon of deep-sea gigantism. In 2019, an event occurred that temporarily thrust the possibility of surviving Megalodon back into public consciousness despite subsequent dismissal by mainstream media outlets. Victor Vescovo, an explorer and retired naval officer with extensive deep-sea experience, conducted the 5 Deeps expedition attempting to reach the deepest point in each of the world's 5 major oceans, using the specially designed submersible DSV limiting factor. In May 2019, Vescovo descended to Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench, reaching a depth of 35,853 feet and spending approximately 4 hours exploring the deepest point on Earth. During this historic dive, external cameras mounted on the submersible captured extensive footage documenting deep ocean environment, including strange fish species, exotic invertebrates, and seafloor geological features. Most footage showed expected deep-sea organisms and terrain, but one brief segment generated significant private discussion among marine biologists who reviewed expedition video. The footage captured a large shape moving in the distance beyond the reach of submersible lights, visible only briefly as a massive shadow passing through the edge of illuminated water. The object appeared enormous based on comparative analysis using known reference points in the frame. Estimates suggested at least 50 feet in length, possibly substantially larger, depending on actual distance from camera. Most significantly, the object moved horizontally through the water column with powerful swimming motion, suggesting a large active predator rather than drifting debris, passive jellyfish, or slow-moving deep-sea fish. Vescovo noted the unidentified object in official expedition reports but could not provide definitive identification given the brief low-light footage. Marine biologists reviewing the video divided into camps. Some suggested the shape might represent a large unknown species of deep-sea fish, or possibly a whale shark that had descended to unusual depth, while others noted that movement patterns and overall body morphology appeared more consistent with a large shark than any other marine animal type. The footage quality and duration proved insufficient for definitive identification, but it contributed to accumulating evidence that something large and currently unidentified inhabits the deepest ocean zones. Other deep-sea submersible expeditions have reported similar fleeting encounters with massive shapes moving just beyond camera range. Operators describe large disturbances in seafloor sediment suggesting recent passage of something very large and powerful. In one particularly notable incident, a research submersible returned to surface with external equipment showing damage consistent with a bite applied with substantial force, though cameras did not capture the attack itself. Given accumulating circumstantial evidence including sonar detections, fishing encounters, whale wounds, and submersible sightings, why hasn't definitive proof of Megalodon survival been obtained through systematic scientific investigation? Multiple interconnected factors explain this absence of conclusive evidence. First, Deep ocean exploration requires enormous financial resources that funding agencies allocate only toward research with clear scientific or economic value and searching for cryptozoological species that mainstream science considers extinct does not qualify as fundable research. A single deep-sea submersible dive costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Systematic surveys of even small trench sections would require dozens of dives, costing millions of dollars. Second, professional researchers face severe career risks from seriously investigating megalodon survival. Because mainstream science has declared extinction definitively settled, paleontologists and marine biologists who suggest megalodon might survive face ridicule from colleagues, difficulty publishing research in peer-reviewed journals, and potential loss of institutional positions and grant funding. Third, the sheer vastness of potential search areas creates logistical challenges. If megalodon populations exist, they represent relatively small numbers distributed across multiple deep ocean trench systems spanning thousands of miles. Finding these populations would require sustained multi-year survey efforts covering enormous areas at extreme depths. Fourth, institutional resistance may exist because proven megalodon survival would force uncomfortable reconsideration of extinction timelines and scientific consensus reliability. Evidence accumulates slowly through private channels, discussed among researchers at conferences, shared within fishing communities, noted in expedition reports but not emphasized in publications.